Now we would like to give the floor to Professor Terracol together with Professor Serero.
I don't know. La presentazione. Perfect. Okay. Yes.
Hello to all of you. Thank you, Diego, for inviting us, and we are really proud to be there. So we're going to try to explain to you what we are going on our school, which is and our lab, which is Paris Val de Seine School of Architecture, and the lab is EFCO. We are all already in it. Yes, utopia is going on, and so it continues as well. The conjunction of climate, data scheme, and AI is a major goal. We know that. And architecture practice is very upstream of the construction process and economic activities. And we have to keep that in mind as well. BIM is a tool, but if we consider that BIM enhanced with IoT, big data, AI, smart contracts, and blockchain, we're going to enhance the world tools and the world capabilities of those tools at the services of architects. And the question is, does architects are going to be supervisor? The second question is, does AI can be a project accelerator scheme? As well, we think yes. We have done a survey with one of our students, and we have, as we know, AI schemes are three entries, and first classification, second regression, and third human supervision. And we have classified what goes out of the school in our country, in fact, in our 20 school in France. And we have classified the 64,000 diploma which has been delivered for architect diploma within 40 years ago. And we have the tools to do that because we work with Python and open source libraries and so on. And the question was, what goes out of the school? We have the data and the answer. We have done kind of the same survey as Borislav Saracek you presented before in the European scope, but we have done it in our country. And we have classified who teach and what. And so here you can consider on the right that there is a specific dichotomy between a practitioner who teach on architecture scope and urban practitioner, and it's not exactly the same people. And here also we have the tools to classify them, the same open library sources, library and Python coding, in fact. So the question with AI is to get out of a paradigm, and we have to keep the gap between rationalism where we were, and we are going to get on a kind of empirism. And the thing which is really, let's say, specific, it is that we have to deal with the curse of complexity, because we don't know exactly what goes inside a neural network, in fact. And the question is, how do we deal with black box paradigms fitted to conception scheme, in fact? And we have to accept that and to manage that. And those technology can facilitate human and social amenities, because between techniques and the question which are running on society, those kind of tools are really helpful, in fact. We are also running on other questions, because the future is now and fast, absolutely. And so we are hiring a PhD students to design new equipment, and I mean by that vertiport and vital question. And neural network and data and AI are not so far from this subject too, in fact. In last July, we were in Paris, and this was this event, and Mark Zuckerberg, as you know well, announced that 10,000 people are running on VR within Facebook, in fact. So you have to understand the scope and and the scale of this kind of thing. So we have to deal with, as we are architects, with marketing forces and commercial services, and we have to keep our position absolutely in that situation, and we have to do it with, let's say, pedagogy, research, and industrial partnership, and in a European scale, in fact, as well. Because if we don't, it's going to be difficult for the society as well. So with David, which is here, we have delivered from 2017, 4 years ago, a seminary based on architecture intelligence. And on the next November 18, we're going to deliver the second specific journey on that subject. In fact, you are well invited on that thing. And as well, we're going to present 12 communication on the topics you are, as a smart city, smart house, innovation, material and digital manufacturing, augmented and predictive design, emotion and perception as well. Well, those events are encapsulated a bit in the chair Architecture and Intelligence. And the question are, what about emotion? Does smart city only a security paradigm? Can AI can offer other amenities for the town and citizen? What are the future of the tools? And is aesthetic a close field with AI? This is a really important topic and question, in fact, as well. Some of our students, Marion Cagriglioni, work of these kind of things, and for us, she considers a building can be a multi-agent system, and she designed a globing volume regulation. The question is that the house or even a building knows about, as he owns rules, in fact, and urban plan has to be managed with this kind of concept, in fact. Another example is the work with Barbara Araque-Palacios, and she has been working on emotion, in fact, because we have captors to deal with body and so on. And the way is to manage this kind of concept with spatialization concept, in fact, a scheme, in fact. Yes, human-machine interface is on a kind of displacement because we are all, we're teaching our students to design a project with a mouse. And with this kind of disposal, with VR and eye tracking and BCI, which stands as a brain-computer interface, the context is going to move, in fact. And so you have to understand that not so far there is a neural network working, and the system can understand what the user wants to do, in fact, in this kind of situation. So. Next question is how to get rid of chimeras. Next, okay. How to avoid standardization? It is a big question also. And can vernacular space can be preserved with AI? This is a big question too. So we think that applied to spatialization and urban scheme, AI can be an accelerator of design. And thank you for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. My name is David Serero, and I'm a researcher and part of the team of Pascal, where we built up basically a laboratory doing research in architecture and artificial intelligence. If I can pass the first diapo.
Abbiamo bisogno della presentazione.
We need the presentation. Okay.
Research in a school of architecture is to bring new ways of learning things that are not yet known. And part of our work is basically to combine inside of the same spaces architects, engineers, and also code writers in order to be able to bring this new knowledge. And our labs are basically totally open lab. And we strongly believe that the data is the new brick for architects, and facing this increasing complexity that architects have to deal with. Processing data and generating data is a very important new step for architects. I'd like to show you here 5 very simple examples of the research that is being done in the lab. The first research is on generative architectural design. I think this is something that we know now for years. Basically, that's the way to design, bringing algorithm that allows to produce a large amount of options. And the architect come as a way to select and choose the best options. In this particular scenario, we're looking at different variations from a tower design. And what's important when you start dealing with generative design is algorithm can basically learn from us what will be the next step of the choice. And we go into what we call predictive design. After a couple of options, after a selection of a couple of options, the architect could be helped by the algorithm to propose him what will be the next option he will choose. So that's exactly the same algorithm that the one you use when you download a Netflix movie, where they propose you the next movie you want to see, and that's exactly the one you want to see. Facebook is using the same kind of algorithm. We call that recommendation algorithm, and they're part of this research by French computer writer Yann Lequin, who is now the boss of Facebook architecture intelligence team. The second example we'd like to show is a work on the issue of reusing materials for new building. I think we're all facing throughout Europe, but in the world, a real problem with shortage of material to build new buildings. And we started to program ways to identify what will be in the next future, the material available to build new buildings. So basically what we did is we programmed an artificial neuronal network to identify in a specific area what will be the buildings that will basically be demolished, and what is the amount of material we could reuse from this building to build newer projects. And basically the device allows to learn from several buildings that were unbuilt in order to be able to create a database of material in time and in space which will be available for new construction. So the idea is to basically create a pool or an ecosystem where we could share material from buildings to building instead of always bringing new materials and demolishing buildings and sending all that to the trash can. So I mean, we all know that architecture is the second most pollution actor in the world, and part of this research is to say we could learn from our usage to basically increase and be smarter on the way we use material. Another interesting part of the team is working on sensible housing. Sensible housing basically is based on IoT, Internet of Things. We are architects start connecting devices. Windows are talking to front doors. Radiators are talking through Wi-Fi system to all the different components of an architecture. And we're trying to identify all of this new environment that we're going to have to deal with in our environment. And as we heard also earlier, this new house becomes basically a sensitive skin that monitors the way we're living and learn from us on the way we're living. And the questions we're asking in this project is, could we use emotion, and Pascal talked about it, as a way to generate new spaces. It's interesting to know that most of us design buildings through experience we had from other buildings. And the question is, could we basically automatize the way we perceive building, the way we feel with buildings in order to design next phase? So in this team, we use simple devices, which are existing devices like smartwatches, which are able to monitor your pulse rate when you enter space. And we're trying to create maps of pulse rating in a space, and we use this data as a way to regenerate spaces based on how you felt at a very specific moment. So these are part of the example. So we use sensors data and what we're building is the way we can scan the existing spaces and bring that as a way to combine these spaces together.
Conclusion, please.
Too much things to do. Smart material, but then we're going to stop on that. But I'm happy to be able to bounce back on the Diego Sopi point on concrete. We have a team working on smart material, and part of that is to integrate RFID chip within material, and that's a concrete wall that basically is a smart concrete wall where you monitor the state of concrete with this chip, and by passing your phone, you could just know what's the pressure and what's the amount of humidity, for example, in the concrete. And I think that type of material could allow to avoid this kind of disaster like the Morandi Bridge in Genoa. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.